Kosher Wine Podcast with Dr. Kenny Friedman and Rabbi Yisroel Bernath.
Hello, Kenny.
Rabbi Yisroel.
I would expect you to be with like gloves and cleaning equipment. Like I just caught you in the middle of your cleaning for Pesach.
Well, I'm always like, I'm cool as a cucumber at all times, no matter what.
You are. You
I
are.
have like, I got the Haggalah going in the other room.
No way.
No, I don't even know what that word means, honestly. That's why I called you, actually. We're not recording this, are we? Anyway, yeah, it's crazy. Pesach is upon us. I can't believe it. Time goes so fast. I remember just looking at my calendar like 2 months ago, and I'm like, yeah, I got some time. And then Purim was there, and then it's here, right? No matter what's happening, Pesach happens, and like it happens to be my favorite yontif of the year for all the work and when I say work, I don't mean like actual work. I mean planning my wine lists for all that work and stress.
It's the Yom Tif of wine.
It's amazing. This is our time to shine, baby.
This is it. And I don't know about you, but I have gotten so many requests from people. What are you drinking for the Seder this year? What are you drinking for the Seder this year? Last year, you guys made such a great list, and I loved every single one of them. You need to make a list for us. So I kept on saying to you, we have to do this for our people.
Right. Right. And it's late. I mean, we should have gotten to this. It's my fault. Should have gotten to this sooner, but we're doing it. And I think last year we did, by the way, is this our anniversary or anniversary wasn't it Pesach? Did we start?
Around this time.
It's already passed maybe,
Yeah.
but all right. But it's our second annual Pesach Wine Picks, Pesach Seder Wine Picks, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we spoke briefly about parameters for this, and I think originally we were talking about doing that kind of thing. I didn't have the time to put that list together, to be honest. I sat down and wrote down wines based on, we didn't discuss this. I'm just going to tell our listeners that we didn't discuss that because you may have a very different list than me. And actually thought that would be cool. I wanted to see what you would do with it without us discussing what parameters we would do.
We actually have never discussed the parameters of any of the lists.
Right. So it's going to be somewhat all over the place. I'm curious to hear what you used. Maybe we should do like when I was growing up, there used to be this cool radio station. They would have what was called like the leitmotif, and they would play 3 songs and you had to figure it out, like what the motif was between the 3 songs.
That's fun.
So I should probably do that, but it'll be pretty easy to figure out once I say the third one, I imagine. But what I did, at least in a basic sense, was, and I took this. I've done it in the past, but I know that I think the first person to put this in my head was our friend Gabe Geller. I do the first night all Israel. The first Seder is all Israel, and the second Seder I do rest of the world. I don't know if you did that, but that's my list for today.
Okay, so I heard that from Gabe during our interview with him, and I thought it was really interesting. Though I feel that this year the least that we can do to help Israel is to support them with, we're anyway buying wine for the Seder and a lot of amazing Israeli wine. So I'm actually going all Israel this year.
Well, now I look like a jerk, don't I?
No, it's okay.
There was a Curb Your Enthusiasm. I know you don't watch such shtus, but where Larry David, he's at this they're honoring him because he put up like a wing in a museum, and right next to him there was the other side. It said anonymous, right? It was the Larry David side, and the other side was the anonymous side. But of course, it was his friend Ted Danson, and everyone knew the anonymous guy was Ted Danson, so he was getting more credit for the anonymous thing than because Larry had his name on, so it looked like he was, So now I feel like Larry David, and you're the anonymous guy. But that's
okay.
So be
I will. You know what I'm going to do?
I'll put it this way. I happen to agree with that. That's a beautiful idea. I like the I do like the, I think about it all the time, and it's seriously now, I think the idea, I think about it all the time, like how can I not drink Israeli wine all the time, especially now? But the other side of it is that it's a beautiful thing that there are kosher wines being made in these remote areas of the world, number one. And the other side of it is that there's a lot of small business owners that are involved in this, and that's something we can support also. But yeah, for the Siddharam, it's a nice thing you're doing.
So I'll match you, and I'll talk about some of the
No,
wines that I
I'm
would
not.
recommend.
I feel fine. I'm comfortable with my decision.
Okay, so then
Let's get into it
let's
because
get into it.
we're both obviously busy, and I'm sure everyone is busy, but we wanted to get this out for all our treasured listeners. So why don't you dive right into how should we do it? Like back and forth?
Yeah, let's just do it back and forth.
Yeah, okay.
So
So okay.
before we get started, I want to give you a couple parameters that I think about when doing a Seder wine, because so there's different types of people at the Seder. Some people sip their wines, and look, we're not judging. I'm not judging, at least. But I actually take a Rov Kos. So what I'm actually doing is downing around 3.5 ounces at a time, which is, as a wine aficionado, not the right way to drink wine, but that's the reality. So I always think of a wine that has like low acidity, like really balanced, really soft tannins. So for all of you that don't know what that means, just like a really easy to drink wine. It shouldn't burn your throat. That's what I think about. What do you think? Is that
Yeah,
what you think
I
about?
use the exact same thing. And now I don't, and we've discussed this before, but I don't necessarily limit myself in the past to those style wines. Based on even like the parameters I use halachically for drinking a Rov Kos, and if you're drinking a Kos that has to be a minimum whatever ounces, you do have it doesn't have to be one straight gulp. It's within a certain 30 seconds. I don't even remember what it is.
Right.
Right. So you don't literally have to drink it in one gulp, but yes, the idea is you are drinking a larger amount, really by probably a lot than you are in a normal wine drinking situation. So yes, I also use that this year. The other things that I had in mind when I did this, number one was I do only drink red wine for the Seder for the 4 cups. I'm
Same
sure
here.
you do also.
Yeah.
And I drink non-mevushal wine at this Seder.
Same
I
as you.
imagine you do.
So all of the wines I've chosen are also non-mevushal and red.
So we have basically the same category, and I think most people are looking for these similar style wines. These easier to drink, non-mevushal, and what was the third thing I said? And red.
And red.
So yeah, based on that general idea, we did think about at some point when we spoke about it weeks ago doing this episode that we would do under $30 or something. I didn't limit to that, but I did try to keep price in mind. And for the most part, I also tried to keep availability in mind. That said, I didn't, as you'll see.
I think that it's amazing. Without talking, we kind of, I think, are sharing a similar idea.
Okay.
So
Well,
my first one is one I had recently. It's just came out, and it's a 23 release. I hadn't seen it before. I picked it up. I'm like, oh, this is an interesting label, and I thought it could be a really great Seder wine. So the background is, this is my feeling, is that Israel is really exploring with new things. I've always wanted that kind of Beaujolais style, really fresh, young Israeli style wine. This is the first time I've really seen it done, and that's the Bravdo Netta, the Netta winery. It's a brand new one. I just kind of picked it up randomly. It's a Cabernet Merlot Petit Verdot, very soft, very easy. To me, it was like a Israeli Beaujolais.
it's interesting. I haven't tasted that, by the way.
Yeah.
Interesting one. Okay, so I started my first cup, and this is going to be a new thing for me because I haven't done this, but I'm taking the advice of others, and I'm gonna try this out this year. And I haven't totally decided whether I would do this for my first or last cup. Is I picked the Yarden Rosé Brut in 2017. I happen to have a fair amount of that wine, and
Of
I love
course,
it.
it's a bubbly.
Thank you for noticing. And that's not going to be my theme. I'm not doing all bubbly. as much as I want to. But I figure that's a really, it's an uplifting first cup, right? You're making Kiddush, you're making a Shechianu, and it's a vibrant pink first cup. So it does meet the qualification of, because some people, a lot of people we know that you and I know will drink rosé straight through because it's so easy to drink.
Right.
This is the closest I'm getting. As a spoiler, I'm not picking any other rosés, but my first cup was the Yarden Rosé Brut 2017.
What do you think about the fact of doing a better cup first and then kind of moving your way down instead of moving your way up?
Is something I've always done. This is an exception this year. Normally, I pick one of my like favorite or a wine that I've been sitting on for a long time for this. Now, I do try to pick something a little lower in tannin. So maybe I'll pick a wine that's really aged, but I'll pick one of my top wines because if I'm making a Shechianu, as I've said before, I am really incorporating the moment in that glass. And like Shechianu is an important bracha to me. And it really like you realize the bracha you have in your life when you say Shechianu, that the fact that you're standing there breathing, you obviously are blessed. But when you look around and if you're lucky enough to have family around you, and thank God you can afford to make a Seder, that's what are those wines for if not that? Yeah. So I happen to think that about Yarden the Brut. I think it's a special wine. Just because it's not so expensive, I think that the Yarden champagne style bubblies can compete with the greatest French ones. So I don't think it's a matter of slumming it all. But what you're saying is something that I always think about when I'm saying Shechianu. I always want to really bring out something very special for that. So I think this incorporates that also. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, I so agree with you, and I love the idea that you're starting on a rosé. That makes a lot of sense to me. I did not choose a rosé, but I do like that idea. I do think like this kind of very fresh, young, very fruity, fruit forward wines also have that kind of really rosé qualities to it.
Agreed. Go ahead for your second.
My second one is going to be the Tulip Merlot. So a couple of things about Tulip. I really like what they've been doing recently. Some of their wines recently have really, especially the Merlot, again, soft tannins, really smooth, very plummy. And I was there not long ago. They were telling me about 30% of their vineyards were affected between the bombings and the fact that a lot of their people who were picking their grapes were on Miluim and they couldn't get to the harvest. And so I feel for them. It's one of the wineries that's been hit. So that feeling, to be able to support them. And I think it's a really great, easy drinking glass. So I choose the Tulip Merlot.
I like that wine. I chose, this will come as no surprise. And I thought about this, like for the second cup, I wanted to drink something with a little more body to it. I chose the Vitkin Israeli Journey Red 2023. But any vintage you have of that, because even little older vintages are still drinking well. And for those in Israel that can drink Shemitah wine and whatever, 2022 was great. The Vitkin Israeli Journey, it's just a staple of my wine cellar. I also, what I did here was that I tried to choose a couple of things that I didn't mention. Number one, I chose wines that I've had in the last X months that I really was like, I really like this, and I thought that could be nice for the Seder. And number two, what was I going to say? Number two, I don't even remember. But that's the point is that these are also wines that, number one, you can get, and that you can also that are more recent to the market. But the Vitkin Israeli Journey Red just got here in the last couple months. I love it. Staple of my wine cellar, as I talk about all the time. I love all their wines, and the reality is what I would probably pick for this is I think people who are going to be listening to this are going to be like, why did he pick the Journey? And that's because when I went into like, well, that's really easier to find and also the most affordable wine. But I'd probably, all things considered, pick the Pinot Noir that they make, which is almost twice as expensive. Well, it's not that much more, but it's 75% more. But it's really great wine. I love all of Wittgen's wines, but the Israeli Journey is the most affordable one, and it's great wine.
We must have been on the same wavelength because I picked the Wittgen Pinot.
Ah, there it is. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad I didn't also pick it. And I'm glad we have two different ones.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we have both.
I think it's really great. Again, really easy to drink. And I'm not trying to say that, these French style wines are easier to drink, but often they are. And as some of these Israeli winemakers are kind of, I think there's a lot of Bordeaux influence that's affected Israel recently. And because of that, those Pinots are very Burgundy-esque. And that Wittgen Pinot, I think, is a good example of like a nice Bourgogne.
It's a very good wine, and that's a great winery. One of my favorite wineries. I guess the way to do this would be to pick the Shulchan Aruch wine now, but why don't we do the 4 cups and then we'll do our, like, maybe what other wine you want to drink at Shulchan Aruch or that type of thing.
Let's do the 4 cups and then we can do the Shulchan Aruch wine.
Okay. My third cup is probably more controversial in terms of how many people. I've seen some negativity around it lately, and I'm surprised. I really liked it. I thought it perfectly fits. It perfectly fits the category of what we're trying to achieve here, and that's the Dalton Zuriman, the grounded, Asupa grounded, 2023. There was also a 2021. The 2023 was better. I expect them to get better and better. Guy Eschel from Dalton is a great winemaker. It's the only Zuriman in the world that's made. I mean, there's a lot more interesting detail to it, but we're not here for that.
Almost from the time of Pesach. That's what's amazing about it. Like, it's a 3,000-year-old grape, which is a couple hundred years after the story of Pesach.
And that's what I was shooting for with this. It's so uniquely Israeli, and I think it's easy to drink, and it is not super heavy. So I think that's my third cup.
I think that is an amazing choice. I bought a case of it, and I've had probably 4 or 5 of them, and I know there's a lot of controversy around it. I don't agree with that controversy either. I think that it's a fun wine. It's historical. It's part of the Jewish people coming back to the land, which is such a beautiful reality that our grandparents could have only dreamed of. And then, finding those seeds and then actually going through the process of all the mitzvahs that it takes to actually make that vine, and what it takes to make Israeli wine with all the various mitzvahs involved. And I think it's also light, fun, easy to drink.
Exactly. Totally agree. What did you choose for your third cup?
My third was also a Dalton. And the reason why I chose a Dalton is not for the same reason you did, and that is another winery that's been affected. They've had a number of their vineyards affected, so I thought I was really trying to think of that and focus on affected vineyards and supporting wineries that need a little extra help this year. And so I chose the Scarlet from part of their Alma series, and it's the Shiraz, Carignan, Petit Syrah, Mourvèdre, Grenache. It's like a GSM kind of style. So, like, also really a little boldier, but also fun to drink. And I think Guy Eschel did a really great job. It's very soft. Again, soft tannins. I always say that that bottle is Israel's answer to a Rhone meets Boho.
That's great. I like that. Good choice. I picked for my fourth cup, and not because there was any specific, well, I'll put it this way. Fourth cup is, like, for some people a little harder to drink. I don't have that problem. So it really maybe should be the lightest. And again, you need to do that Rove Coast. It's towards the end of the night. You have plenty of wine in you. I chose the Gvaot Bituni, the Gafna Reserve 2023. So Gvaot makes a Pinot and a Bituni, and they're similar style wines. And to be honest, the Pinot is the better wine. I chose the Batuni because of the indigenous aspect, the Israeli indigenous aspect. He's another great winemaker, Dr. Shivi Drury, who we should really have on sometime because he's
And he's the
fascinating.
one who found the Zuriman.
Correct. And he was involved in that whole research. So on that same theme, I chose the Gvau Pituni, which is very light and very easy to drink. Does have depth to it and character. It's an interesting wine. And that's what I chose.
That is a really great choice. For my fourth, I did not choose a lighter one, though I should have. But that was because I always find that at the end of the dinner, I actually want something that's going to be lingering, and that's gonna kind of stay with me for the rest of the night, because that's kind of the last thing you're having. If you follow that, you don't eat or drink after the Seder, so that's kind of the last thing you're having. So I chose the Bat Shlomo Regavin.
Interesting. That's interesting. What is that? First of all, what's in that? I don't know if I've had that Bachelor Morgan.
You haven't had it? It's a brown label.
I'm not sure I've had that. Do you know what's in that offhand?
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Doesn't matter. And it's a more expensive bottle, yeah.
It is a little more expensive. Yeah, it is a little more expensive.
That I chose was a more expensive bottle. That's not a cheap bottle.
Yeah, I also, I mean, the other ones are fairly priced. It's a 86% cab, 14% Syrah, it says.
They're cab based, right?
Yeah, 14 months French oak. It is a
That's a big wine.
Older wine. It's a big wine.
Big wine. So I had another. This is an honorable mention because I ended up replacing it to the last second. But then I figured like it may be a good. I'm just going to mention it. You can drink it during Shulchan Aruch, or it's another alternative. But I'll first mention this one, and then the one I had as my Shulchan Aruch wine. The first one I mentioned that I thought of for the 4 cups, just because I don't think it gets. I never really hear about it, and I had it recently. I honestly don't even buy it often myself. I had it recently, and I just thought it was like fun and fruity and delicious. Was the Castel La Vie Rouge, the 2023, and I wrote it up recently. It's just really enjoyed it. I think I didn't expect that much from it. Maybe I didn't love them in the past. I really liked it, and I thought it was just fruity and enjoyable. It's a you think of Castel, you think of big wines because you think of the Grand Vin and like a wine like that. But they make these kind of wines that are made as drink now, unoaked style, like fruity, fun wines. I really like that. So I think that would be a good option for someone who likes a little more fruit than that super, than something like a Pinot or something like that. Not to say that Pinot is not fruit. You know what I mean?
Right.
With a little more fun to it. But my Shulchan Aruch wine that I wrote down, because that's something I figure I'm going to bring out another big boy for. This is an old favorite of mine. I happen to really love this one, and I think it's time to drink it, is the Recanati Reserve Wild Carignan 2014. That's an old, great wine, and it's ready to drink. So that's my list. That's my Israel list.
Wow, it's great.
Do you have a Shulchan Aruch wine? You didn't pick one.
I do have a Shulchan Aruch wine. I pulled it out of the cellar. I've actually really I've been waiting to drink it for a while, and I think it's probably not quite ready. Maybe it's a little young to drink, but I have I don't know. It's a Yarden 2009 cab.
Oh yeah, sure. 2009. You worried it's not ready?
I mean, I've heard that some of those are drinking better after 20 years. I think
no, I think that's in a perfect spot, and that's great wine.
It's a great wine, and I think it's at the perfect window and and that's something I want to sip, obviously. So I'm not going to use it for one of my kosot. That was why I was thinking.
Right. That's I would love to taste that with you. I don't have any of those left. I haven't in a long time. Okay, well that is night 1.
Okay.
Complete. And for me that's my Israel wine selections for Rabbi Yisroel. That is his first night Israel selections. But now we move on to night 2. That's I think that, by the way, great lists, both of ours. I think like we covered a lot of ground there, a lot of great wines. Nice choices.
Yeah.
For the second night, I went with the same theme again of using another Brut Rosé, and I chose the Hagafen Brut Rosé 2015, which is an older one that's been sitting ready to drink in my cellar. And Hagafen, I like their bubblies a lot. I think they do gain character with time, and it's funny because even the Hagafen, I actually thought about this when I was writing this down. Even the Hagafen Blanc de Blanc is always pink, and I that could even be used, but I use the Brut Rosé, and the 2015 is ready to go in my humble opinion.
It's interesting, the Hagafen. I haven't had the Hagafen in a while, and I'm very into California, like the California winemaker, uh, kind of crew. There's like all the like they kind of like there's a crew there. Jonathan Haydu and Gabe and Shimon. We've had him on the podcast, and obviously Benyo, and Ernie's not part of that crew. And I don't know why.
He is. Ernie, first of all, Ernie is the OG. I mean, Ernie went out there
Yes.
in the 70s.
Yeah.
And his first vintage of Hagafen is 79. I mean, the man's going on 50 years. It's unbelievable, really. He's not that old a guy.
Right.
He, in fact, and I'll give it a plug, is the Jewish Link Annual Wine Guide has Ernie on the cover of this. If you haven't seen it, there's a lot of good reading in there, and that's not just because I have a piece in there. Actually,
I
too.
know you like to write for them.
I love that publication, and I love that they're doing that because that doesn't exist in the kosher world outside them. Is an all kosher wine magazine. It's amazing. So more power to them, and hope they can keep that going and get a copy. There's a lot of, and there's also like it's good. Top 10 lists and top whatever lists are always controversial, but there's lots of stuff to talk about in there and their choices of their top lists of the year. But
Right.
Ernie is on the cover, and Ernie is the OG out in California, and he's a great winemaker, and that's a great winery.
Yeah.
So
I have to look at it
he's
more.
married to an Israeli. So there you go. There's
Okay,
your
there you
notes.
go. I was actually thinking as you're talking about why I didn't choose a rosé. I haven't seen any 24 rosés from Israel. Have you seen?
There's only a few. There's only a few. Yeah, we talked about that with Gabe. I mean, I don't get it. Like it seems to me that it should be like I'm looking it up as we speak. Seems to me that should be, the sole focus because when you want to drink rosé, Seder, like your Bein Zmanim, like that, like pool time, like all that stuff, is like perfect for rosé. And like I don't want to a year from now see these 24 rosés rolling out when I'm not interested in them anymore. Now's when I'm interested. Bring them out now. And I'm not even that interested in rosé anyway, as
Yeah.
we've
So that's one of the reasons I think why I
said.
didn't choose a rosé. I just didn't see any 24s, and
The Yarden rosé is out 24. Carmel has one, I think. There are a few. I mean, there's the first one that always hits the market because of the hemisphere is the ESSA one, but that's not
right,
Israel. I'm just mentioning it because I'm looking.
and
Yeah,
also
there's a few. Tabor has that's a Moscato rosé. I mean, there's a few, but yeah, for the most part, there's almost none, and I don't get it. It's also part of it, I think, is because they're trying a lot of they're so overstocked with 23s and even 22s. Well, not Israeli, but rosés that were 22s that I think they're not releasing a lot of. I mean, I don't know, but it's like it's suspicious that you don't see any 24 rosés barely. But that's what am I going to tell you? I don't control that market. I'm just a simple man. But the reality is, as I say all the time, there's almost no time that I would rather not have a white wine than a rosé. So I don't care. To,
yeah,
to, to be honest, I think the rosé market should be thinned. Rosé to me should be $15 and fun and drinkable. I don't need $50 rosés, honestly. So
right,
because if I'm spending $50, I'm buying a great white wine. I'm not buying a rosé.
yeah. I,
As
I agree with you. So for my second night, my first pick, is one that I think it's very reasonably priced, and it has been one that's been overlooked, but it's very easily available, and that is the Odom Forest Red Blend. And the 23, not mevushal, it's really easy to drink. It's smooth, it's round, it's gentle, it's got a little bit of spice. I think it's just a really easy way to, again, we're looking for these easy drinking reds, and often very easy to get, not expensive. That's my number one.
I love that you choose wineries and wines that I honestly don't drink that often, and that's another winery I need to revisit. I chose for my second glass a wine I just had. Now, this is when I characterized earlier that they're accessible. This is not that accessible. You can only get this from him, and it's not that much of it, but it's inexpensive, really interesting, probably the only one in the world also, and that is the Kleinlehrer. He calls it the Dancing Sophie Sanso 2024. Dancing Sophie is a play on words on Sanso, Dancing Sophie.
Oh my gosh, I would have never thought of that. That's great.
And his wife is named Sophie. So he named it for her. It's 24. It's brand new. This is the first year. This is his third vintage. Sagi Kleinlehrer is the general manager of Covenant Winery. And he started making wine a few years ago. He has a very interesting story. He started making his own wines a few years ago, and this year he got hashgacha on it. And he has all his wines now are under, I think it's the OU. I think it's the OU. And so I was able to get the 24 Senso. When have you ever had a 100% Senso? I haven't. So maybe it's the only kosher wine in the world. I wouldn't characterize it because I don't know every single French wine that's out, so especially in France. But I thought it was a really fun wine, very easy drinking, fun, enjoyable wine. It's a drink now style wine, and it's perfect for what we're talking about. And I give him credit for trying to make his wines accessible to everyone and making them. He's a Jewish man making wine, but he wanted from people to be able to drink his wines too. So he got hashgacha on it, which I'm sure is never cheap, especially for a struggling starting winemaker. But he did it, and I support that, and his wines are available on his website, Kleinlehrer. I think it's kleinlehrerwines.com. And I really liked it, and I thought about it when I was drinking that this is a perfect Seder wine because it's so light and easy and drinkable.
Fascinating. Yeah, I've never had it, and I'm excited to try it. I'm gonna go there and order some. Maybe I'll see if I can get it before Pesach. That looks really good.
What's your second cup?
My second is the Yisroel Young Vine Carignan.
Love it.
Like Yisroel, like that Carignan. Again, easy to drink, not too much oak, soft tannins, really just good Seder wine.
And Yisroel is most known for, first of all, we love them. They're just great people. But they're most known for really their indigenous grapes like Argamon, and they're the forerunners of a lot of that. So definitely great winery to support. They make some interesting wines, and great choice. I chose for my third wine another very small winery out of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Our friend Kevin Dana. By the way, to this point, and I'll put this out as a challenge to anyone else. I think that's our highest listened podcast, maybe, that Kevin promoted it himself also, but he's an interesting guy and he says what's on his mind. So he was of course on our podcast, and he's made very interesting wines to me. I really am a big fan of his wines. Now he's also known for doing wines that are very specific to cold climate, things like Chambourtin and things like that. But he made a Pinot Noir in 2022, and I loved it. I thought it was perfect for a Seder also. It's very light body. It's very easy to drink. Red berries, raspberry, good fruit, great balance. I thought it's a good. It's very affordable for this kind of wine, and it's from Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. The grapes. It's where it's from.
Amazing.
And so I really like that wine. That's my third cup.
You turned me on to Kevin's wine, and obviously we had him on the podcast, and I actually went and tried his Blanc de Blanc, and it is great. And I'm not a bubbly guy, but that was a great Blanc de Blanc.
Yep. Yeah, I stocked up on that, and I'm even curious to see how those will age too. What's your third cup?
My third is from our friend Jakob Orja,
Yeah, I've heard of that guy.
but I love his wines. We love his wines. Uh, it's the Up We Go 2020.
Ah, good choice.
So it's a Syrah Grenache Carignan. Again, a Rhone style. These Rhone style blends are very good for Seder.
Also, I think that is a like really fun and easy to drink wine. The Up We Go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I like it. I should have thought of that one. Okay, I for my fourth cup, and because how can I ever forget these guys? I chose the Shiraz, of course, from also on our. Maybe I'm biased towards people that are on our podcast. Shiraz, the Pinot Meunier, the River Bench Pinot Meunier 2021. I love that wine. I really couldn't get enough of that wine. But more than that, just on its own. But it's a great Seder choice because it's a very similar style to the Pinot Noir. It's a similar grape, and it may be the only Pinot Meunier on the kosher market. Where is that? Where are you getting Pinot Meunier as a varietal wine? So I chose that. I love the wine. I think that's underrated, and that's my fourth cup. And also for that same reason as I mentioned before, I think it's like really easy to drink, but also great wine.
I think it's a really great choice. I actually had the 21 1-2 punch this past Shabbos, and I was thinking to myself, that is a great wine for Seder as well.
Yeah,
The Shira 1-2 punch.
it would be. What did you pick for your fourth cup?
My fourth cup, I'm going with again something a little bolder because I like to end off the night with something bolder. Though I thought, anyway, I'll tell you what it is. It's the Natofa Dor Syrah.
That's 2017?
2017, I think.
17, I think.
I
Yeah.
think so. Yes.
Yeah, interesting. Have you had that recently?
I have. I've had it recently, and I was thinking a few months ago when I had it, I kind of in my mind I was like, this is my Seder wine. It's great. It's bold, it's interesting, and also light enough to be able to enjoy for the Seder.
Interesting choice. So that's our four cups. The wine I chose, and I was thinking of moving this around, and this was just my last second idea on this. Now I did choose an Israeli wine for my Shulchan Aruch wine. But I kind of like the idea that even on the second night, and we're in Galus, but I'm going to choose a wine with in mind that will be in Yerushalayim next year. So it probably fits for the fourth cup, but I didn't want anything. You know what? I'm going to use this for my fourth cup because it is easy to drink. And it is your like really like next year we should be in Yerushalayim. And I'm saying that we really should be. I hope it's tomorrow, honestly. I'm ready. I chose the Carmel Single Vineyard. This is from deep in my cellar. Carmel Single Vineyard Chal Merlot 2010. That's a
Wow,
special
I haven't
bottle.
had that in a while. That's you think it's still good?
I had it a year ago, most recently, and it is still good. It's still great. It's time to drink it. And by the way, I don't mind a little bit of even past peak. I don't mind like tertiary stuff. I love that stuff, so I'm okay with that. But I chose it as my Shulchan Aruch wine in case it's not great and I have to drink an entire glass of it. But I have a feeling it'll be great, and that's I wanted also something a little more special from my cellar that I've been sitting on for a long time, and from Israel, and that's what I chose.
That is a really great option, and I'm curious to see if it still has strong life in it.
What did you choose?
I chose for my Shulchan Aruch wine for the second night. I have this thing that I started. I think I spoke about it last year after Shemitah, that I started doing an Otzer Bet Din Shemitah wine during the Seder. I wouldn't generally. I know it's very controversial. Some people don't drink them at all, and some do. But I know that there's a lot of halachot and there's a lot of laws around how to drink them, when to drink them. And I find Seder night, if there's one time of the year that you want to drink a Shemitah wine, it should be your Seder. And I know there are some people who have a tradition of drinking it last Shemitah's wine for the next Shemitah Seder, like a 2015 on 2022 kind of thing.
That's great. That's great.
Well, I'm not going to go that far, but I have a couple bottles, and I have a 22 Misty Hills.
Oh, cool. That's special wine.
Yeah, and I thought that would be.
I love that idea too. Great choices. Great choices. Did anyone write these down?
No, but we're having a good time here. I'm sure somebody's listening and wrote it down.
Listen, great choices. You know, we should, and I do have to get running. I'm sure my wife is going to kill me that I've been doing. I'm like, I'll be back in 15 minutes. But thanks for taking the time to do this with me. And I know people appreciate that we do this, and I hope people enjoy this. I'm going to say, and I'm going to let you close it with your stuff. You're the rabbi. You're a better closer. But I sent a message to my friend in Yerushalayim, David Stern, who a lot of people know. There's a lot of David Sterns. But I liked what he said to me when he signed off. He said, I wished him a Chag Kasher Sameach, and he said, I'm going to read what he wrote. And I don't even know, it's a simple thing, but I loved it. He wrote, "And to you, my friend," and because I thought it's apropos for our podcast, whatever 4 cups you choose, and then I'm saying this to our listeners also, whatever 4 cups you choose, may they be meaningful together with the 3 matzos and maror, and we should experience a true Yitzias Mitzrayim, God willing. I love that, and I wish that to everyone listening, and I will let the great Rabbi Yisroel sign us off.
Amen. That was perfect. Thank you, David. Thank you, Kenny. That was perfect. Amen. And may it be b'cherut. We enjoy freedom in Yerushalayim. May the hostages have freedom before the Seder, be able to join us all. It would be the greatest gift for Pesach this year. And we should all be together enjoying good wine with Mashiach in Yerushalayim this Pesach.
Amen.